Hey, welcome to this video. Today what we'll be doing is we'll be defining what reality actually is. The reason why we'll be doing this is because it's a really good idea, if the training is to help the dreaming mind wake up to reality, to define what that reality actually is. And it will help us moving forward as we go through the teachings, that we have a concept that we both agree on, and that we know we have set our goal and we know the direction and the goal of which we're trying to get to. So over the ages, the different people who have got back to the reality, so to speak, have described it in a variety of ways, such as the kingdom of heaven or nirvana or being awake. But the term that I've come across that I like the best is this term called Satchitananda. And the reason why I like this term is it's very descriptive of what the state is actually like. So it's broken down into three terms. So we could think of water in much the same way that water could be described as being cold, it could be wet, it could be clear, but together they all form one experience of being water. So in the same way, reality, or Satchitananda as it's named here, can be described in three different ways, but together they create the experience of reality. So the three different categories that we'll break it down to is Sat. So Sat just means it's real. It's a state of beingness, a state of reality. Chit. So Chit means having consciousness. It's aware of being real. And it's Ananda. And Ananda means it's bliss. It's blissful. So it's aware, it knows it's real, and it's a very blissful experience. The reason why it's a blissful experience is because it has three different qualities to it. And that is that it's eternal, so it's never going to be passing away. It's unchanging, so that means that the state is completely solid. It's no variances within it. It's a complete whole. And it's self-sustaining, so it's never looking for something outside of itself. Everything is just everything is just within itself. And the reason why that is what we'll describe down here is we've got a few different terms that we can then use to also point back to this one experience. So it could be described as a state of oneness. So therefore, obviously it's going to be self-sustaining because there's nothing outside of itself. So there is only one thing, and the one thing is the Satchitananda-ness. And because of this oneness, there's no threat in it, because threat can only come when we perceive something coming from outside of ourselves to attack us. So it can also be described as being spirit. So spirit is obviously the opposite of being a body. So in a spiritual state, then we're in the state of being in a state of oneness, that there's not different spirits, all these different spirits running around. There's just one whole spirit, which is Satchitananda. It could also be called the state of knowledge. And knowledge isn't intellectual knowledge. Knowledge is just this knowledge of itself as being Satchitananda. The opposite in the dream is a world of perception. So perception is obviously predicated on duality, that it's one thing viewing another thing. But in the state of knowledge, in the state of oneness, then it's just experiencing itself, nothing else. It can also be called awake. So as we're going through the training, we're going to be talking about being asleep and in dreams. So this is the state beyond dreams, it's the waking state. Also, obviously, as we've called it, is reality, that this is the one real thing. So anybody who gets back here and perceives himself as this, that's the only thing that is then accorded reality. Whereas in dreams, we talk about illusions. So true self, we can also call it that this training and teaching isn't about trying to get to something else. It's just trying to wake up back to who we really are in reality, where everything in a dream could be seen as the non-self or the false self, that in the waking state, this is our true state. And it's also could be called as a non-conceptual reality. So non-conceptual because it's beyond mind, and when we're in mind or in a dreaming mind, it's all full of concepts, and we're thinking that if we can get all the different concepts, all our ducks in a row, then we'll have some sense of this kind of unchanging, eternal, self-sustaining experience, which can never happen because the only place it can actually happen is in reality. So Yeah, so all these are different concepts though that are all pointing back to what is beyond concepts. So remember that a finger pointing at the moon isn't the moon itself. So it doesn't matter what finger is pointing up at the moon. What we're always focused on is the moon itself, the goal that we're trying to get to. So pick a concept that works well for you. It doesn't actually matter, because the state that we're trying to get to is the state that is beyond all concepts. And when we get that taste, then we know that all of this stuff, all this teaching, all of this training is all just ways to help the mind get back to being beyond the state of needing teachings and learnings, etc. So, so how to get this state? Well, having tastes of it, well, there's been different, you can have experiences of having these awakenings or revelations or samadhis, as they're called in different schools of thought. So that's when the dreamer kind of opens its eyes, sees this state or experiences this state, but then it's very short, and you know, the eyes close again, the veils of illusion come over again, and then they're stuck back in the dream. However, that kind of experience stays with the dreaming mind, and therefore it starts to obviously really investigate its dream a lot more. However, if you haven't had one of those experiences, not to worry, because that's what the purpose of this actual training is. So over time, as we go through all the trainings, the idea is to get the mind back to a peaceful state. And a peaceful state is the state where it is most receptive to having these awakenings and having a taste of the Satchitananda beyond the dream. That's because in a state of conflict, which you know we would be if we're lost in the dream, we're very far away from being able to fit into the reality, which is, you know, the complete lack of conflict, because it's a state of oneness. So moving forward though, the next steps you can actually take is to find witnesses for beings who have actually got to this state and have expressed it and lived it, more importantly. The problem a lot of times, and one of the tricks of Maya and the illusion, is that we have witnesses for people who claim to have got to this state, but then they act in very strange and deceptive ways, such as, you know, using it to fight wars, or using it for power, or to create cults. So all of these different things, unfortunately for us who are kind of lost in the dream, we throw the baby out with the bathwater, that we write it all off saying, well, I just can't understand how there could be something else. All these witnesses that I have are all reinforcing to me that the dream state is actually real. And beyond that, the ones who actually say it's, you know, that there is something else, they're even worse than the normal witnesses. So the one that I would direct you to, the enlightened being that I have found has witnessed this state perfectly, is a 20th century enlightened being called Sri Ramana Maharishi. So he was from India, and he had a spontaneous awakening. He woke back to this state, and for the next 50 years he lived in that state and exemplified the state in the way he, you know, acted and acted with other people and interrelated with them. So I'll put some resources below this video for you to be able to check that out. But beyond that, feel free to ask any questions, and then I'll catch up with you in the next video.